Hey everybody, it's Dr. Rebecca Troy, and I'm sure if you haven't gathered this by now, here at Retrain the Dyslexic Brain, we are all about celebrating client wins. And so we've got another really big one to share with you today. And so if you're interested in statistics and you want to dive into a little bit more about like what is neurologically possible within a really short amount of time, I would invite you to kind of tune in to this celebration. The client that we're going to talk about today, when we got him, was 6. So he was just 2 months shy of turning 7 years old. But when we spoke with his mother, she just said, "Oh my goodness, this boy every day talks about how much he hates school. He's avoiding reading." And at the tender age of 6, I'm really worried that if he doesn't like it this much now, I don't, I just shudder to think about what could happen 5 to 10 years from now if heaven forbid this doesn't get better. And I don't want it to get to a point where he just doesn't even want to try anymore. She was starting to see that he was having some self-esteem issues, and it was really an added stressor for not only her son, but really for the entire family. It caused some real tension for all of them. And she just said, "I worry about him constantly." And so in every state, it's slightly different, but in the state where they live, there is a test, a reading test that occurs at the end of first grade, that if you don't pass that, you are required to have to repeat first grade. And so she said, "Oh my goodness, if he passes at all, I think it's going to be a barely pass." And I'm really worried that if he doesn't, if he's repeating first grade, it's just going to push him over the edge and hate school that much more. And at this point, they've been doing some academic interventions for him at the school, but it's just not making progress. And ultimately, I just really want him to build in his confidence. So we did some assessments with him at the beginning of the treatment. So these were his baseline scores. So his ability to read words was at the 16th percentile, which means that he was performing better than 16 out of 100 kids his age. The same, so spelling was the 13th percentile of the words that he tried. Only 37% of those were what we would consider a good phonetic equivalent, meaning that all the rest of those were words that had added letters, or they were omitting a letter or entire syllable. Phonological awareness was only at 28%. But drum roll, look at what happened to this young man in just a couple of months. So he jumped from the 16th percentile to the 53rd percentile, and from the 13th percentile in spelling to the 53rd percentile. 92% of his spelling attempts are using good phonetic equivalents. Phonological awareness catapulted to 80%. And so when we look at educational statistics, I mean, one of the things that I think is really powerful is to look at what this actually means in terms of the normal distribution curve. So you can see here, based on this rudimentary scale, R equals his reading scores, S equals his spelling scores, but he was at 13 and 16 percentile, well below, like a standard deviation and then some below where his typical aged peers would be performing. And so what's really incredible about his data, and something that we really, really want to celebrate, is that when you look at a standard deviation in a typical school year, it's typical to move a 0.3. And so that's a little bit less than a half a standard deviation, and that would be typical growth to make in an academic school year. And so what's awesome is that our client made a full standard deviation and then some of growth within just a couple of months. And so what that really means is that he made 4 to 5 times the growth that a typical kid would make in a full school year in just a couple of months, which is, I think, a humongous celebration and really a testament to what neuroplasticity can really do. So when his when they finished the program, we had a conversation with his mother, and he just said, like, now that he's in second grade, he hasn't struggled at all this year. He's gotten what he needs. He's sounding out. He's decoding words really well. And she said it was really neat to see this start to change for him. And really, by all intents and purposes, I mean, he is performing above average. And so he's certainly right in the range of what all of the other second graders in his class are doing and the way that they're performing. And that catapulted him in just a couple of months. And so, another thing that she celebrated is that it felt empowering for her that she was able to do that herself right in their home. So where they lived, there was a dyslexia treatment center that was about 30 minutes one way away from them, and it required 45 to 60-minute sessions 3 times a week, and that was after a full day of school. And so she really celebrated, like, this was awesome that we could tackle this together in our own home, and his confidence has really soared. And so, one of the things that I want to just inspire you with today is that this, you're asking probably, like, can this work for me? Can this work for my child? Here's what I'll tell you. This mother, our client, was absolutely tenacious, and she refused. Like, he's not going to fail this first grade test, and I am going to do what it takes to support him. And so she was resourceful 100% of the way. She was committed to doing something about it. She was committed to doing the work. She showed up coachable. And the bottom line is that when you do the right things and in the right order, it takes no time at all to really significantly change the way that your child is able to hear and respond accurately to the language. And so you get to see neuroplasticity do its thing in real time. And what's awesome is that this is going to have a lifetime and an everlasting effect and impact on this young man. And so, I mean, when you think about just where he was a couple of months ago, and heaven forbid, if this data didn't do what it did, he would have been in for several more years, if not a lifetime, of struggling down in this lower quartile. But, you know, do some neurological plasticity, do the right work, and it catapulted him in a couple of months. So now he's firmly an average, and if not, just kind of working his way up to being an even above average kid. So it has had a lifetime and a lasting impact on him. So I hope that you can join me in celebrating this young man and the changes that he's made, the real work that his mother put in, and the time and energy and effort that she made. And we look forward to sharing with you another client celebration in the near future. Thanks, everybody.